97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Wednesday edition, hump day edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. I am Josh Hennig. Welcome to the show. Phillies won last night, lose today. I can't say I'm exactly surprised. We'll get into the Phils this hour. Plus, Sixers win last night. Doesn't even matter. I'll give you my perspective on that here in the Power Hour known as Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We got a jam-packed show. Dave Weinberg for a Weinberg Wednesday coming up in about 14 minutes from now. At 6:40 tonight, we'll talk NBA and Sixers with Bryan, Toporek, the co-host of the NBA podcast. And we will let you get in on the action as well on the text board at 609-403-0973 is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. I want to get to the Sixers first because to me, at least for me, in my perspective, I thought last night was an example of something that I think is going to be important for this team. I don't think the Sixers are the best team in the NBA. Anyone who does is probably drinking some pretty heavy Kool-Aid and probably smoking some good stuff. But at the end of the day, the Sixers did something last night that was very important from my perspective, which was they found a way to win a game they shouldn't have. I'm a big believer that the only way this team could ever compete in this postseason is to be the team that just won't go away. And maybe that is the key to their success, because having the best record in the regular season seems to not be the way for many NBA teams to be successful in a league today where I'm not going to say parity is king, but at least there's a closer margin between the top teams and the middle teams than used to be. I mean, the entire Western Conference feels like an argument could be made for them to win the conference this year. And in the East, even though Milwaukee and Boston are the two top dogs, the Sixers are right there with them. And there are some people who feel like the Cavs could pull up an upset in the second round. So it's not like in years past where in the 90s it was just Jordan's Bulls, or in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was just Shaq, Kobe, and the Lakers, or when the Celtics were having their run with the big three, Garnett, Pierce, Allen, or LeBron in Miami. Like, it's not that kind of vibe this year. So to me, when I look at the 76ers and I see them win a game last night where Embiid basically has to carry them, scoring half of their points en route to a win, I think that there is a huge, huge deal when it comes to a Sixers team that has been a disappointment for many fans. And if there's going to be something to hang on to hope-wise, it's not necessarily beating the Celtics. It's the reality that you are the team that can scrape and claw your way in any game and win it. It's the mentality that we are going to embrace our identity. We are going to own who and what we are. That is a huge part of this conversation. Because for me, for the 76ers, they absolutely have to reshuffle the deck if they don't win this year. But if you want to avoid reshuffling the deck, you got to go out there and find a way to win. You guys say to every team you face, We are the pest that won't go the way. We are that small dog that is at the window barking incessantly at you because we are protecting this house. You have to be the person who just never gives up. You know, the line from Captain America in the Marvel movies where he says, I can do this all day, right? It's the idea that what made Captain America this symbol was not just he stood for, doing the right thing, and he always, was above reproach. It was the fact that he never gave up, that he constantly fought and clawed to the very end. And I think for the Sixers, that has to be what they embrace. They have to embrace this model, because if they don't, they will lose in the second round again, and it'll be time to reshuffle the deck, as I just said. Game night here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Let's get to the Phillies for a moment. First of all, a little breaking news about the Phillies. Tomorrow's Phillies home opener has been postponed and rescheduled for Friday due to impending weather. So, this is why Major League Baseball builds in that game on Thursday, open game on Friday, just in case this does happen. And so the Phillies have a day off tomorrow. And maybe that's a blessing in disguise, because after losing today and winning last night, they're starting the season now with only 1 win in 6 games. So maybe they do need a day off tomorrow. Maybe they need a day to kind of just step back and hit the reset button. You go back to last season, the Phillies went on that run in June after they had a day off. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but sometimes having a day off allows you to really basically find yourself as anybody, an athlete, whatever your job is. Listen, you're listening to me on 97.3 ESPN FM. Let's say you're somebody who drives a delivery truck. Let's say you're somebody who has a long commute to your job. We thank you for listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill and Game Night with me, Josh Hennig, here on 97.3 ESPN. Well, let's say you're a teacher at a high school. Maybe let's say you are somebody who works at Wawa. Maybe you're somebody who cuts hair for a living. Maybe you're somebody who works at one of the local breweries that we all love here in South Jersey. Whatever your job is, sometimes you just need a day off to get yourself recalibrated and back in line. And maybe that's what this team really needs. Losing 4-2 is not an embarrassment today. What it is a reminder that you are struggling. And whether it's as simple as Gregory Soto can't come in after Aaron Nola, I don't know if that's the answer. But what I do know is Aaron Nola pitched well today. It wasn't his fault. They lost the game. Look, they lost 8-1 on Monday. They lost 4-2 today. The Yankees are a very good baseball team. Okay, there's no doubting that. But the Phillies do need a day off. So maybe having their opening home game delayed by a day could be a blessing in disguise. Coming up next, we'll get into more Phillies and Eagles with a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave Weinberg joining me coming up here on the sports, game night here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm thinking of the Sports Bash because we're going to give you another opportunity to qualify for the Pick Your Trip Eagles contest coming up in about 45 minutes from now. Also coming up a little bit later in the show, Bryan Toporek will talk Sixers and NBA with us at 6:40 tonight. And of course, we'll get to your text a little bit later this hour, 609-403-0973, and DM the show through 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
Here's what you missed on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
The epitome of winning, the epitome of toughness, the epitome of the best ever. MJ. Charles Barkley criticized MJ. MJ hasn't talked to Charles Barkley ass since. So, I'm sorry, what generation was MJ from? This is how players live. We're built this way. Get out of here with that. Let's stop acting like players weren't always sensitive. The greatest player of all time, the toughest guy, the most mentally strong, is sensitive towards Charles Barkley, saying he's a horrible GM and owner. Get out of here, Chuck, on that. And I love Chuck as my dude. It's not a generational thing. It's just the way it is.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN. Brought to you by
Ocean Casino. Get your game on at the Gallery, bar booking games in Ocean Casino Resort. Go to the Gallery. Go to the Ocean. Go for the win. For more info, visit theoceanac.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's April, and you know what that means? Taxes are almost due. Jackson Hewitt can help you win tax season. That's the sound of your maximum tax refund. The sound of getting 50% off tax prep. The sound of many of our competitors' prices going up. And the sound of getting to your nearest Jackson Hewitt. Hurry in for 50% off tax prep before this offer expires April 9th. Limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Power Trip in Indio, California. 3 nights, 6 legendary bands. Friday, Guns N' Roses and Iron Maiden. Saturday, AC/DC and Ozzy Osbourne. Sunday, Metallica and Tool. October 6th, 7th, and 8th at Empire Polo Club, home of Coachella. Register now at powertrip.live. Tickets on sale Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Natalia, solid dismount, but that little pause is a deduction.
Top tumblers hope to stick the landing with Coach Jasmine.
That aerial sequence still needs work.
She needs more certified athletic trainers to find her balance.
Focus. I'm going to need you for the all-around. Wait, who's spotting the vaults?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right. You don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait. Text PLACE to 200-300.
Attention car buyers. Matt Blatt Kia has 3 questions. Do you have a current vehicle loan or lease? Do you want a low financing rate? Do you want a new ride? If you've answered yes, then stop what you're doing and get to Matt Blatt Kia today. Because if you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released with 0 down and 2.9% financing for 48 months or no payments for 90 days on every 2023 Kia Forte in stock. Have a job clearing $350 per week? Matt Blatt Kia wants to approve you today. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home in a brand new Kia with peace of mind with Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 3/31/23. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. River.
Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
We'll get to your text a little bit later this hour. Dan and EHTJ in Atlantic City, all your messages and more in just a bit. But right now, as promised, it is a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave Weinberg joins me as is every week. Of course, you guys extra point column over at 97.3 ESPN.com. As Dave, as you are coming on, the news comes out that the Phillies home opener is delayed. So maybe that's a blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah, that's one game they can't lose, right?
Right. But Dave, you are deep down, you are a baseball guy. And
yeah,
I know that, it's weird because you go back in 2008 and 2009, the Phillies in both those years had rough starts as well. So whereas in 2019, when they started 4-0, they didn't make the playoffs. So It doesn't really matter how you start a season, it's how you finish.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's way too much baseball left to be played to start panicking or worrying or even getting excited if you got a great start. I mean, I think the Angels got off to a pretty good start last year, then went in the tank as they have been known to do. And, yeah, the Phillies are going to be fine. They're struggling at the moment, but I think they'll be figuring things out here pretty soon and getting back on the right track.
Now, what I think is interesting is according to the Phillies press release I'm seeing, and this is my favorite part of this. So they are rescheduling the game tomorrow. They've been elected, instead of moving it like a little bit later in the day, they are moving it to Friday. That's why they do this, right? They have that extra day. But my favorite part of this is it's going to be a 7 p.m. game on Friday. The gates will open at 12:35.
What?
Apparently, they have a lot of pregame festivities planned because they're also doing the whole, they're giving pennants away to fans and everything.
Right.
So I can only imagine that if the gates are opening at 12:35 for a game that won't even have a first pitch until later that
makes
night.
no sense to me.
Actually, no, I'm misreading it. It's actually 3:05. See, why do they type it this way? See, this is
okay.
whoever wrote
that makes
this.
more sense.
Here's how it reads. It says,
okay.
It says the game was originally between 7 and 3 and 7. We have elected to move our home opener to Friday. It's like, why even mention that?
Yeah, I'm not getting you. So yes, tomorrow's game was supposed to be at what time?
3:00.
And they're moving it to Friday at 3:00, right?
Correct. Instead of moving it to 7:00 tomorrow night because of weather.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see where that could be confusing. Yeah. All right. But yeah, Friday 3:00 makes more sense if the gates are opening at 12:30. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense. For some reason, I had this visual in my mind, people just drinking all day until 7:00 first pitch, and how backwards that could go.
Then again, though, I mean, this is the Phillies, not the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles, you'd probably get some ugliness there, but I think the Phillies people are probably working and stuff. I mean, just because it's 12:35, I don't think people would get there that early, but maybe they would.
Yeah, but this is Easter weekend, isn't it? So
oh,
a lot of
yeah. That's right. Yeah, Good Friday and all that. Yep, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think of that. You're right. Yeah.
By the way, I do think it's funny as well that people complained last week, Dave, about how, why do they have a Friday off for these home openers? And this is literally the reason why you have a Friday off, so you can move your Thursday game to Friday because of this situation. So
yeah, just get have a little leeway there. Yep, that makes sense.
So, but still, the Phillies are 1-5 to start the year.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dave, is the reason why they are 1-5? You can put your finger on something. Because I have my own theory, but I want to hear what you think.
I think the World Baseball Classic might have something to do with it, as odd as that sounds. What did they have? 3 players there?
Correct.
4?
Well, they had 3 on the U.S. team. They had a couple guys on other teams as well.
Okay. I think maybe they're just taking time to get to know each other and to get back into sync a little bit. I mean, most teams had, the entire spring training. Theirs was kind of divided up a little bit. That's the only theory I can really think of. I mean, it seems like they're hitting okay. They're just not hitting in timely fashion. They're not getting the big hits when they need them. They are getting hits, but just not big ones. And, you can't fault Nola for today. I mean, When he gave up 2 runs, I think he got charged with a third one. But I mean, he pitched okay. I mean, I think he pitched good enough to win. It's just but the starting pitching has been inconsistent as well. I'm not real sure like what the biggest reason is. What's your theory? I'm curious.
See, that was my theory. It's the World Baseball Classic. I think that when you have Schwarber, Turner, and Realmuto spending so much time away from the team, not developing chemistry, like do we really think it's a coincidence that JT said that after the first game he was out of breath because of the pitch clock? Do we really think it's a coincidence that a catcher who's considered the best catcher in baseball did not have time to work with his pitchers, and all of a sudden the first 2 games of the year they get blasted for a ton of runs? I just don't see coincidence there.
Great minds think alike. Okay. You're with me. All right.
Yeah, we agree. Maybe nobody else agrees with us. Dave Weinberg joining me for Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN. I do want to ask you also about the Phillies, because Schwarber now is hitting 2 home runs the last 2 days. What is your perspective on the batting lineup? Because that's been a conversation that's been ballied about a lot, about, Bohm being so low in the lineup. Should Schwarber be in the 2-hole? Do you like the lineup? Do you dislike the lineup? Because we know that they can make changes along the way here.
Yeah, they seem to have like a pretty versatile kind of lineup where you can move guys up and down according to if they're hot or not. And, I like it, though. I think, like I said, they have that versatility. You could probably, put Schwarber up in the 2-hole, I guess. I mean, he's definitely not a leadoff hitter like it was last year. So that makes, I'm glad that they did that. And, yeah, I mean, I generally like it. I don't think they're having like a whole lot of trouble scoring runs. I mean, like I said, they're getting some hits. They're just not getting big hits, but I think it's okay. How about
Dave,
you?
I want to switch over. See, I'm conflicted because on one hand, I hate Bohm that low in the lineup.
Yeah.
I think that I want him higher in the lineup, but I know, there are a lot of people who hate Castellanos. I don't hate Castellanos necessarily, but I think that for me, I would put Bohm in the 3-hole. I would put him there, and I put Realmuto 5, because that way you're getting some real protection for if Hall's going to stay in that 4 spot.
Yeah,
because realistically, I don't think Castellanos at this point is scaring anybody, whether you think he's a good or bad player. So to me, I would let Realmuto protect Hall instead of Castellanos and let Bohm hit 3rd, where a spot where he has had success in the past. That's what I would do, at least.
Yeah, that makes sense. The only person that scares me is Brandon Marsh with that haircut and beard. But I told you about that last week. So.
Yeah, well, he didn't even play today because apparently he's having back spasms.
That's all that, yeah.
I got to tell you, though, I'm watching that Christian. I got to get his correct spelling. Apparently, it's not Pache. Apparently, it's another pronunciation that he told people in the media recently he wants to be pronounced. So I got to work on that now. But watching him run around the outfield effortlessly, making at least 4 plays today, all I could think of, Dave, was we didn't have a center fielder last year who could make these plays. Like, that's all I kept thinking of. And now he's just effortlessly like flying around like a gazelle in the field. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah, he's a good player. He really defensively, yep.
Speaking of defense, I wanted to ask you, Dave, about the Eagles before we get to the Masters, because I know, the Masters is a very important time of year for you. With a few weeks till the draft, do the Eagles need to prioritize defense in the first round with the 2 picks, or is it okay if they go offensive line in the first round?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. I don't think you can pick an offensive lineman at 10 if they indeed stay there. You can't use a top 10 pick on a player who's going to ride the bench. You need some that pick is too important. You need somebody who's going to make an immediate impact, and I just don't see any way there's an offensive lineman there who's he going to replace? It's just not going to happen. So, I think that they're better off. They're probably better served sticking with defense in the first round. But with defensive line, you might not start, but you're going to play because the rotation that they have. I don't know if there's a safety out there that is worthy of a first round pick, but if there is, then I would definitely take one there. So I'm kind of I don't see them staying at 10, but I guess they can. And if they do, then I think you have to go defense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I can't see them not making a trade because Howie Roseman always makes trades. It's like
definitely
it's
true.
like he can't two things he can't get away with not doing: breathing and not making trades. It's like the thing he does so much. But like you said, being a 10, you're getting a real prime player there. And you may not get, if you're to be a competitive team, like a winning team for the years to come with Jalen Hurts, you may never see a 10th overall pick for the next 10 years.
Right. That's what I mean. You can't. I mean, I'm sure there's some very good offensive linemen there. I've heard the kid from Ohio State and a couple others that are all very, very highly rated, but they're not going to play. So yeah, like I said, the 10th is a marquee pick. That's a guy who's a potential franchise player, and maybe one of those guys would turn out to be one. But you need somebody that you're going to stick in your lineup right away. At least that's my thinking.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Weinberg Wednesday, Dave Weinberg at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra point columns over at 973ESPN.com. The real reason why Dave's on today, because he doesn't really want to even talk about the Eagles, honestly. He wants to talk about the Masters. So let's get into the Masters, Dave. I know every year you love to, throw a couple shekels on some of the guys. So,
and I did. Yep.
So tell me who you threw on and why.
Okay, I took 5. I put $20 a piece on 5 guys. So I took 2 of the favorites, thinking that they probably will break through. Scotty Scheffler, defending champ, and John Rahm, who's probably he's one of the best players in the world, no doubt. And plus, he's an Arizona State guy like my son. So I try to support the Sun Devils when I can. And then I went with like 2 mid-level guys. Gosh, I can't remember who it was. Will Zalatoris, and Tony Finau. And Zalatoris seems to be like on the brink, but he really hasn't had that like marquee year this year so far, but I think he might be on his way. And Finau, I'm just a big fan of his after watching that Netflix special. His dedication to his family, his background, growing up in Utah and having a really hard upbringing, and the way he's been able to scratch and claw and turn himself into a really good player. I think he's on the cusp as well. And then my 5th one was Tiger. I know he probably has no shot, but he's the best payout if he does. So and you can never, as we learned a couple of years ago, you just can't count him out when it comes to Augusta National. I mean, he knows that place like the back of his hand. He's always able to like turn back the clock or just summon that special energy that tournament brings out in people. And so I put 20 on him as well. Well, now watch, Jordan Spieth's going to win probably, so it's going to shoot my stuff. But go ahead.
I was going to say, well, here's the thing. I know a lot of people are trying to pick Rory McIlroy because he was so close last year.
Right.
But here's the thing: 73% of all Masters winners are all from the United States.
Really interesting.
So I don't know if that's because people look at the Masters differently in this country, and people maybe in Europe look at the Open, maybe more as their biggest tournament. But it is an interesting thing to look at. I was reading through this list the other day of like all the people who have won the Masters, and like for example, 15% of all Masters winners, excluding Tiger Woods, who have won the Masters, wore Nike. For example, just the most random stats in the world. The average winner of the Masters is 32 years old over the years. Just like weird stuff.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
Interesting. How about that? Huh.
I don't know
Scotty Scheffler's a Nike guy, I'm pretty sure. So
he is a Nike guy. I see that he's a favorite at a lot of the books right now.
He's just on fire. I mean, he's on another planet. He really is. Even when he loses, I mean, he's right there. He's so dialed in on every aspect of his game. He's got the right temperament. He doesn't get too rattled when things go wrong. And I'm a big fan of his as well. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he wins it, 2 straight. I already got major kudos for his Masters dinner. I think he went went Southern back to Texas, and then had some interesting choices. I forget what they were, but I heard it was a pretty big hit with everybody.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So if I had to go 5 for me at least,
Mm-hmm.
I would go Scheffler, McElroy. Like I would go with the 2 favorites just because,
Okay.
they're up there.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I just keep looking at, I don't know why I keep looking at, but I just feel like Koepka's got to be healthier than he was last year. So I keep looking at him as a guy. I'm with you in Zalatoris. I feel like you and I talk about him almost every major.
Yeah,
when we talk about these majors. You're right. He really is right there. If I have to go a long shot, though, I'm not going Tiger, though, for a long shot for me. I just think Tiger's just for him to admit today that he doesn't know how many more of these he's going to do was kind of like an eye-opening thing. Like, my goodness, this guy used to be the guy who says, you don't play if you can't compete, right? And now he's like, oh, no, how many more of these I can do? And it's like, oh, okay, maybe your mind isn't where it needs to be right now. So if I'm going to go with a long shot instead of him, I'm going to go with a former winner.
Phil Mickelson.
No.
That would be a long shot.
No, I don't think is he even on the board I'm looking at right now. Like I'm literally scrolling through the names right now. I don't even see Phil's name.
Just go to the bottom.
I was gonna say, like, he's gotta be at the very bottom of this list. No, I'm gonna go with Patrick Reed.
Oh my gosh, really? Okay.
Here's why. That guy's weird. And sometimes you just gotta, how athletes are, Dave. You've been in locker rooms. Like some of the best athletes in the world are some of the weirdest dudes in the world. So, maybe going to Live Golf is like reinvigorated Patrick Reed, because like I saw that presser with him. It was him, Koepka, I think it was Bubba Watson, right?
Okay.
They had like a presser together because they're the Live guys,
Right.
Now.
Dustin Johnson too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like him and Bubba brought up a great point. Bubba Watson and Patrick Reed both brought a great point. They
Bubba's
said,
very weird too.
Bubba's weird. Listen, I'd go with Bubba too. I figure I'd go for a long shot. They both made a point. They said that the Masters is set up so much differently than the other majors, and that for them, they feel like they're prepared for the Masters because they've been playing a lot of golf because of Live recently, and maybe there is something to the fact of having a lot of rounds under your belt. Because when I read the Tiger Woods book years ago by Armin Katan and Jeff Benedict, they talked about in the book about the fact that, when Tiger had his slams, he was playing a lot of golf year round. And, Tiger was just a machine. So maybe for some of these guys, the more golf they play, the more ready they are. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it.
I mean, they're playing a lot of golf, but they're playing 54-hole tournaments with scrambles and all this other. Shotgun starts, and you could be right though. I mean, maybe they will be in pretty. The more experience you get, I guess, on the course, the better off you're going to be. I think if I were going to go with like Reed and Watson, I would say just because they're so familiar with Augusta. I think Reed actually grew up down the street and went to Augusta State. I will not support any Live guy. I just think that's just the total joke. I won't watch a second of it. I don't care what they say, what they do, nothing.
I honestly tried to watch one of the events I think it was like a month ago, and I fell asleep in my chair. So.
Yeah, it's a clown show. It really is.
Bubba Watson, by the way, is plus 25,000. If you really want to go. I can't find Phil on this list.
Wow, how about that?
I know that Patrick Reed is plus 9,000. Patrick Reed. So
okay, that's not a bad gamble though. Yeah,
him and Tiger actually have the same number on the board I'm looking at.
Oh, really? So. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Like you said, because we said all this, probably Spieth is going to win. So
yeah, that would figure.
Well, Dave, enjoy the Masters this weekend. I know there's supposed to rain off and on for the next 2 days, so maybe that'll allow you a little more time to focus on that instead of your own golf game.
Yeah, the hardest part for me is going to be Sunday because I'm flying to Orlando with my grandkids and my kids for a vacation, and that's Masters Sunday. It's going to be really tough for me. Hopefully our flight's not till like 5:35, so maybe there'll be like a clear winter or something, and I'll be able to to reflect on that. But yeah, it's gonna be tough.
I already can see you standing in the airport looking for a TV to watch.
Oh yeah, you got that right. Yep.
Dave Weinberg joins us every Wednesday for Weinberg Wednesdays here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. At Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter and Extra Point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Dave, always appreciate you jumping on. And I guess when I talk to you next week, you will be checking in from warmer temperatures.
I'll be in Orlando, Florida. Yep, very good. Yep.
Dave, always appreciate you jumping on. Enjoy the travel.
My pleasure, Justin. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you as well. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. We got Dave Weinberg and Bryan Toporek coming in next. I'm going to rapid fire a couple texts here at 609-403-0973. Jay in the AC says, Josh, only you can figure a way to tie a Sixers analogy into a Marvel movie. But for real, I think that Joker might be a better pound-for-pound player. But if you take him up the Nuggets, they are probably still a playoff team. Take Joel off the Sixers. Where are they? As always, I appreciate you guys at 97.3 ESPN. Let's get the Phillies going. That's Jay in Atlantic City. Dan in the EHC says, how could the Phillies keep putting Castellanos up in the lineup? He's the least productive hitter I've ever seen. I think you probably forget John Mayberry Jr. there. And then I hate this lineup sent in. This texter didn't leave their name, but honestly, no offense, I don't like your lineup. He says lineup should be Turner, Stott. I don't want Stott in the second hole at all. He says Bohm third, Schwarber fourth. I don't mind Schwarber fourth. The problem is most of Schwarber's hitting experience in the big leagues has been in first or second. So that's why he is second. I'm okay with it. Realmuto 5. I like that. Hall 6, Castellanos 7, Marsh 8, Cave 9th. The problem with Marsh 8, Cave 9th, what you're doing is you're putting two of your worst hitters ahead of Trey Turner, and the likelihood of him getting RBIs becomes slim to none with that lineup. So, but I appreciate the effort on the text board at 609-403-0973. Speaking of Sixers, we'll talk about it next with Bryan Toporek here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Count it, it's good. Oh, yeah. Joel Embiid, he's back, baby.
It's Sixers Heat tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7:30. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
Progressive protects more than just your home and car. You could save when you bundle your motorcycles, ATVs, boats, and RVs. Doesn't that sound good? Like the sound of the wind in the trees as your RV sits parked in the forest. Is that the call of the majestic owl? And there's the sound of a tree branch crashing into the roof of your RV. Oof, I guess their nest was in that branch. But you know what does sound good? You're covered with Progressive. So bundle all your vehicles and home in one place and save with the multi-policy discount. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers.
Ad paid for by the Sentinel Group. Attention veterans, active duty military, civilians, and contractors. If you were issued earplugs between 1999 and 2015 and were diagnosed with hearing loss or ringing in the ears, you may be entitled to compensation. The manufacturer of these military earplugs recently paid $9.1 million to resolve claims that their earplugs were defective, potentially exposing service members to damaging sound levels that could have resulted in hearing loss or tinnitus. If you or a loved one were issued earplugs and were diagnosed with tinnitus or hearing loss, don't wait. You fought for this country, and our attorneys want to fight for you. Call 800-678-9751 now for a free legal consultation and to see if you may be eligible to file a claim. Time restrictions may apply, and you pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. So call 800-678-9751 now. Again, 800-678-9751. That's 800-678-9751.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 85% water, right?
85% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure concentrated cleaning ingredients. Don't pay for water, pay for clean.
Save $10 when you spend $30 on Tide and Downy. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent. Must buy at least one participating Tide or Dreft detergent item, plus at least one participating Downy and or Bounce scent booster, liquid fabric softener, or dryer sheets. Prepaid card by mail. Visit pglaundryrebate.com for terms and conditions.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. Is your check engine light on?
The free Fix Finder service reads your check engine, ABS, and maintenance lights. It even sends a detailed report directly to your email. When you need to get back on the road, AutoZone's free Fix Finder service is here. Get the most complete free warning light report backed by technician-verified fixes. Only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
See details at AutoZone.com.
Jack Daniels has always made whiskey, and if they have it their way, they always will. But there's one thing Jack can't make more of: moments. Those are on us to create. You see, basketball fans, we only get one shot at this thing called life, so let's make sure we're making the most of every moment in March and always. Whether it's showing up for our team or sipping a glass of Jack while cheering at the radio, don't let a single moment go to waste. Make it count. Jack Daniels. Please drink responsibly. Tennessee whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Jack Daniels Distillery, Lynchburg, Tennessee. Jack Daniels and Old Number 7, a registered trademark. Copyright 2020. All rights reserved.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Let's get into the Sixers and NBA now as the Sixers season winds down. Bryan Toporek, he is the co-host of the NBA podcast, also contributor for Liberty Ballers and Forbes on the NBA. He joins us as the Sixers finally beat the Celtics. But does the game even matter? Bryan, what do you think? Does last night's win even matter to you?
Matters in terms of probably sealing Joel Embiid as the MVP this year. So that was certainly a plus. But in terms of their playoff outlook, I'm probably even more bearish on their chances against the Celtics than I was before last night.
Really? Why is that?
They just do not seem to have a good answer for when the Celtics go small other than Joel Embiid go nuclear. And if it takes Joel Embiid scoring 52 points to beat a Boston Celtics team that was without Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams last night, I shudder to think of what's going to happen when the Celtics are back at full strength.
Let me play devil's advocate there, because I made this point earlier to Mike Gill in the Sports Bash. How likely is it, though, that everyone else on the team has a bad night in a 7-game series? Like, I understand if like one of Maxey, Harden, Tobias Harris all have a route, and the Anthony Melton all have, like, one of them has a bad shooting night. But what are the odds that all four of those guys are really all just going to like disappear into thin air in a playoff series? Like, are we really anticipating that all of the guys on this team are all going to choke in the postseason?
I hope not. I mean, Maxey has struggled against Boston all season. So I think there is, it's not just noise there. And I think Boston with, Marcus Smart, Derek White, Brown, Tatum, Malcolm Brogdon has the personnel to really give backcourts in particular some trouble. I know the reputation with Harden is, the further you go in the playoffs, the further you go in a series, the more he's going to shrink. So he's going to have to snap that perception as well. Tobias Harris is just a complete X factor. You have no idea what you're going to get out of him on a night-to-night basis, really on either end of the floor. Same goes for PJ Tucker. I mean, he hit those 3 big threes late in the game, but, you're not counting on PJ Tucker to be a primary scoring option. And, I think the other counterpoint to, last night not necessarily being indicative of what's going to happen in the playoffs. Hopefully benches are going to shorten, especially as you go further into a series. And, George Niang, I think he's the real question mark for me, whether he even has a place in a Boston series. He's like, if he's not hitting shots, I wouldn't be shocked by game 3, game 4. He's not in the rotation.
I feel like your dog is very happy with the Sixers as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry about him. Yeah.
You're the first time your dog making an appearance on Game Night here on 97.3.
That's right. Yeah, we have a bit of a possible gas leak, so I'm guessing they are here to check that out. And my dog is giving a very, very friendly greeting.
Very, very friendly greeting. So here's my take on the game last night. I said before you came on earlier in the hour, Bryan, that I loved last night's win because I think the Sixers, if they embrace the mentality that we're not the best team in the league, but we are that pest that won't go away. We are the thorn in your side. We are going to be there tooth and nail with you to the very end of the game. We're going to be like that little dog who's screaming, your dog's a little bigger, but like the little dog in the window screaming at the mailman the whole time he's walking up and back to the mailbox, letting you know, this is my house. I am here for the whole time. If the Sixers embrace that mentality, because they've done it multiple times this year, they've come from behind numerous times in games this year. I think the fact they've shown you they can win games ugly, it's not a beauty pageant contest, it's the NBA. And I think that might be their biggest key in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think this team is definitely different than they've been in years past. I think this is arguably the best team they've had around Joel Embiid. You know, the only other real candidate I would say is the 2018-19 team with Jimmy Butler. With that said, a lot of the playoffs comes down to individual matchups, and I think Boston in particular is a pretty bad individual matchup for the Sixers. I think their strengths, align with some of the Sixers' weaknesses. They are not they're a heavy jump shooting team. They're not super reliant on post play, really not at all. They're not necessarily reliant on driving to the basket, drawing a ton of free throws. So Embiid defensively, can cut off rim drives to the rim, and he can cut off, short shots around the basket. But the 3-point shooting, attention to detail, has been an issue for the Sixers all season defensively. Transition defense has been an issue for them all season defensively. I think what you said is right. They're not the best team in the league. They are not the best team in their conference. You could put Milwaukee and Boston above them, and I think that's fair. So they're going to have to play, if not perfect, they have to play almost perfect. They have a very, very slim margin for error against either of those teams. The concerning thing about last night is, seeing what they did, how they closed out that game last night. It does feel like that type of thing happens against Boston in particular over the years. So, maybe a lot of these guys haven't been here especially for like the 2018 series or even the 2020 series. So maybe beyond Embiid, they don't have that mental baggage when it comes to Boston. And I think the encouraging thing is that Boston, Toronto was up there for a while, Miami was up there for a while, but like Boston always gave Embiid fits, and he has figured something out against them. Like, he has been sensational against them all season. So that, if you are looking ahead to a potential second round series or a likely second round series at this point, I think that is the one biggest reason for optimism, is that whatever they've thrown at Joel Embiid so far, it hasn't worked. And maybe they, especially last night, I think probably both teams were saving some stuff for the playoffs because they know that it's very likely that they are going to collide in the second round. But we haven't seen the adjustment yet from Boston. That's like, all right, Joel Embiid's going to shoot 8 of 30 this game. Like, he is, he really seems to have cracked the code after all of these years.
George from Summers Point sent a message into our text board. I want to ask you, Bryan, directly, because he wants to know, is Embiid winning the MVP good or bad for the Sixers in the long run? I think that's a very interesting question, because we've all been pining for Embiid to get the MVP, and no matter how much Embiid says he doesn't care about it, he does care about it deep down. But is it a good or bad thing? Like, does it mean anything for him and the Sixers long term?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how it's a bad thing. I think it is only a good thing for him. I think the mental baggage that comes with, coming so close in the past couple of years and not getting over that hump. And as you said, he has said all season he doesn't care. He clearly cares. He is lying through his teeth. He's not even doing a good job of hiding it. Like, I think he is not lying and saying they have bigger goals in mind. I think his biggest goal is legitimately winning a championship. But every player wants the accolades that come with being the best player in the league. Giannis has, given multiple interviews in recent weeks saying, like, of course I want to win MVP. Like, who wouldn't want to be named the best player in the NBA in a given season? I think for Embiid, especially if you look ahead to future seasons and, this new CBA is going to be in effect, there's going to be a 65-game minimum reportedly for any of these players to be eligible for individual awards. So I could see a scenario if he didn't win this year, would he in future seasons, if he's right in the thick of the race, would he push himself in the regular season in these like meaningless late season games if their seed's already locked up? is he playing 25, 30 minutes to have that count as a game for his MVP eligibility? So I think that, I think maybe he does that anyway, but I'm guessing that, winning this one will really allow him to turn the page and focus exclusively on, like, you know what? I'm going to fall short of the 65 game threshold. I'm not going to be eligible for awards. That's cool. Now it really is championship or bust for me.
Couple more before I let you go, Brian. I want to ask you, outside of the top three, does any team in the Eastern Conference have a chance at the conference finals?
Yeah, I mean, I think the tricky thing is, I think Cleveland and New York in the 4-5, you could maybe talk yourself into being a sleeper conference finals threat, but they're going to get the Bucks in round 2. And I don't see either of those teams getting past the Bucks, unfortunately. Like, if the Cavs had slipped into the 2-3 bracket somehow, and, maybe they could have beaten Boston. I think Boston would have been the favorite in that series, but Cleveland might have had a chance. I think that's less likely in terms of Cleveland beating Milwaukee. Brooklyn, I don't think so. No, you never want to count Miami out just given what they've done in recent years. But at the same time, we're 79, 80 games into the season, and they are where they are for a reason. Like, Kyle Lowry is just a shell of himself. Jimmy Butler's incredible. Maybe he's, we've seen it. He could take over games. He can be the best player in a playoff series. So, I think the best case scenario for the Sixers looking ahead is Miami winning that 7 seed and putting a scare into Boston in the first round, or really drawing out that series, because they're a physical, annoying, gritty team. But I can Miami go through Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee? Because that's what it would probably take to make it to the finals, or even just Boston and Philly to make it to the conference finals, knowing they're not going to have home court advantage in either series. It's a tough sell, man. I mean, I think the West is not to steal a word from Kyrie Irving, but a total cluster F. I could see multiple first round upsets in the West. The East, I think, is going to be pretty chalky, maybe outside of the 4-5.
You brought up the West. That's exactly what I wanted to ask you about before I let you go. Clippers, Lakers, same overall record, same home record, same road record, almost the same exact conference record, just inverted. One's 25, 24, one's 24 and 25. Who's the better LA team going into the postseason?
I think it's got to be the Lakers. I mean, Paul George sounds like might not even be available for the first round, or even further. So, I mean, the Lakers, I know a lot of people are clowning anyone who's like high on them now, because you look at their record and they are where they are, but they are such a totally different team than when they were for the first 3 months of the season. I mean, if you just evaluate this team post trade deadline, they very likely would have been a top 6 seed in the West. They if they run this thing back next year, I think they're going to be among the favorites to come out of the West. So I think the Lakers, assuming health, I mean, that's the big question with LeBron and AD in particular, but the moves they made at the trade deadline, I think, completely transformed them. And, especially with Paul George likely to miss the first round, I think you've got to pick the Lakers here. Full strength even, I think I would lean toward the Lakers, but, that one I'm less certain about.
The Lakers win tonight, they could actually find themselves in the 6th spot and completely out of the play-in as well, which is a whole nother can of for the Western Conference, I would say. He's Bryan Toporek. Check out the NBA podcast. Like, subscribe, download, check out all of his coverage of the NBA with Forbes Sports and Sixers with Liberty Ballers at Toporek on Twitter. And he joined us on a Wednesday because he's actually going away with his family for the holiday. So, Brian, get the gas situation fixed in your house so you can go away, not worry about your house blowing up while you're gone.
That's the hope. Yeah, we're going to a friend's wedding this weekend. So great timing, as always.
Brian, take care of yourself, all right?
Thank you. You too, Josh.
And, of course, it is that time where we get to give one more qualifier a shot here. We're looking for caller number 7 at 609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. Your opportunity to get in for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest. All thanks to Phillies Sports Trips. Don't forget, you must be present to win Maynard's in Margate, April 27th. Sports Bash, Mike Dale broadcasting live 2 to 6 that day here on 97.3 ESPN. Call number 7. You're a qualifier for Pick Your Trip. 609-573-3776. No Sixers, no Flyers, no Phillies tonight. Sixers back in action tomorrow night here on 97.3 ESPN. Remember, Phillies opening day postponed until Friday.
What I'm hearing in that comment is we're laying the groundwork.
Hey, South Jersey, this is Billy Schwein. Tune into The Locker Room every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN. Each weekend in The Locker Room, you will get passionate sports talk from a fan's perspective, along with interviews with some of the biggest